Behind the cowboy hat and calm stare, Kevin Costner was quietly fuming. Now, at last, he's naming names. From brutal on-set clashes to silent feuds that rewrote the show's future, these are the Yellowstone castmates he couldn't stand, and the moments that shattered the illusion of family on the ranch. The secret clause that changed everything. From the moment Kevin Costner signed on to Yellowstone, he wasn't just playing a patriarch. He was positioning himself as one. In the earliest negotiations, before the show became a cultural juggernaut, Costner's team inserted what many now call the Dutton Clause. It gave him two rare powers almost unheard of in modern TV deals: final script approval and a character death protection clause. Translation: John Dutton couldn't be killed off unless Costner said so. At the time, Paramount agreed. After all, they needed Costner's name to sell the series. He was the Oscar-winning legend, the face on the poster, the anchor who could carry a Western drama on his back. But what the studio didn't realize was that they were giving away the keys to the kingdom. As Yellowstone exploded into one of the most watched series on television, Costner's contract began to cast a long shadow. Behind the scenes, producers realized they had handed more power than they ever intended to a man who didn't always play by TV rules. Taylor Sheridan, the show's creator and head writer, quickly felt the pressure. Sheridan had built a universe, not just a show, with prequels, spin-offs, and legacy arcs. But when it came to Yellowstone's central storyline, he was suddenly trapped behind legal glass. He could build the world, but John Dutton's fate? That belonged to Kevin. Sources close to the production say Sheridan hated the clause. Every time he tried to introduce real stakes, illness, political downfall, a dramatic death, he'd be met with Costner's veto power. One writer recalled, "We had to write around a character we couldn't fully control. It was like playing chess, with one piece glued to the board." It all came to a head when Sheridan pitched a major mid-season twist in Season 5, a near-fatal ambush that would push Dutton to the brink, emotionally and physically. But Costner allegedly shut it down. Too much damage to the character. That was the message passed down through legal channels. From that point on, trust evaporated. Writers grew frustrated. Scripts were delayed. Rewrites became battles. What started as a creative partnership slowly turned into a chess match, one where every move had to pass through legal, publicists, and sometimes even Costner's own team of editors. The fallout wasn't immediate. Costner still showed up, still hit his marks. But the energy changed. On set, people spoke in whispers. Behind closed doors, producers wondered what they'd done. And for Sheridan, the damage was personal. The character he built, the arc he envisioned, was now a hostage to paperwork. It wasn't just a power play. It was the beginning of the end. Sheridan versus Costner, the real war behind the camera. To understand the tension between Kevin Costner and Taylor Sheridan, you have to start with one truth. There was only ever room for one sheriff on the ranch. From day one, both men were used to being the alpha. Costner had decades of blockbuster films behind him. He wasn't just a name, he was a brand. Sheridan, meanwhile, had clawed his way up from bit TV roles to become a self-made mogul, writing and producing an empire. For a while, it worked. They respected each other. But once Yellowstone blew up, so did the egos, and the scripts started arriving later and later. Costner was furious. According to insiders, he accused Sheridan of delivering scenes weeks behind schedule, making it impossible to plan his other projects. Sheridan, in turn, blamed Costner for vanishing without warning during key shooting blocks, leaving the crew stranded and scenes unfinished. By season 5, the two weren't even speaking directly. Everything went through reps, assistants, lawyers. What was once collaboration turned into a Cold War. One producer described it bluntly. They didn't argue, they waged psychological warfare. Sheridan started firing back in the press. In one interview, he said he was disappointed in Costner's lack of commitment. That was the first public crack. Costner, known for staying quiet, finally clapped back, telling Deadline he had taken a beating he didn't deserve. The fans didn't know what to believe, but on set, everyone felt the fallout. Writers were caught in the middle, delivering drafts only to be told one actor wouldn't shoot them. Directors had to reschedule entire days to accommodate feuding egos. Crew members described a toxic, frozen atmosphere where silence said more than words ever could. Things hit a breaking point when Sheridan allegedly wrote a monologue, one meant to subtly mirror the real-life tension between Dutton and his children. Costner saw it as a personal jab. He demanded it be rewritten, or he wouldn't show up. The monologue never aired. Eventually, the show became less about story and more about survival. Every decision came with layers of negotiation. Every delay cost money. And all of it stemmed from two men who once built a Western empire together, now staring each other down from opposite sides of a creative standoff. No fistfights, no screaming, just silence, distance, and a franchise slowly breaking in half. Who Costner clashed with first on set. Before Taylor Sheridan and Kevin Costner ever entered their standoff, before rewrites and NDAs, there was already cracking ice under the cast. And the first person Costner reportedly clashed with? It wasn't a director or a producer. It was Luke Grimes, the actor who played his on-screen son, Case Dutton. In the early seasons of Yellowstone, Case and John had one of the most emotionally charged storylines, a fractured father-son bond with layers of pain, pride, and unspoken trauma. Their scenes were raw, powerful, and, according to insiders, difficult to film. Behind the camera, Grimes was a rising talent, intense, quiet, deeply committed to his work. But sources say Costner dismissed him early on, treating him more like a background player than a co-lead. One crew member put it bluntly, Kevin respected Sheridan, not the younger cast, especially not Luke. Tension reportedly started during season 2 when a crucial story arc required Grimes and Costner to film a sequence involving a family standoff. According to production whispers, Costner refused to rearrange his schedule for a key shoot day, forcing a rewrite that reduced Case's emotional arc. Luke was upset. He felt like his work didn't matter, a source close to the show said. Kevin didn't bend, and Luke took that personally. From that point on, the distance became visible, not just emotionally, but physically. Grimes, once seen talking with Costner between scenes, began rehearsing alone. Scripts were adjusted to keep their scenes short. Directors started framing them further apart, even when the dialogue called for connection. And by season 4, fans noticed. Online forums and fan pages began pointing out that John and Case's relationship felt colder, stiffer, as if the warmth was gone. At first, viewers thought it was a deliberate creative choice, but behind the scenes, the chemistry had broken down. By the time season 5 rolled around, the situation was impossible to ignore. Sources say the two actors filmed almost entirely in separate units. Even when their characters were in the same scene, stand-ins were used to avoid overlapping shoot days. The emotional distance on screen, it wasn't acting anymore. And while Grimes never spoke about it publicly, his body language said enough. In group interviews, he rarely looked in Costner's direction. Promotional photos often showed the cast split down the middle, the younger stars on one side, Costner on the other. For a show about family legacy and generational loyalty, it was a bitter irony. Because before the power games and studio politics, Yellowstone was already bleeding from within, and it started with a father and son who couldn't even share the same set. Wes Bentley, a powder keg waiting to explode. If Luke Grimes was the slow-burning tension on set, Wes Bentley was the ticking time bomb. Playing Jamie Dutton, the deeply tormented, emotionally volatile adopted son, Bentley brought a level of raw intensity that made Jamie one of Yellowstone's most hated and strangely beloved characters. But that intensity didn't stop when the cameras did. Bentley is known in the industry as a method actor, immersing himself so deeply into a role that the line between actor and character often disappears. And that style? It clashed violently with Costner's old-school approach. Kevin comes from a different era, one producer explained. He believes in discipline. Hit your marks, say the lines, move on. Wes? He lives inside the chaos. That difference in style quickly became friction. According to multiple sources, Costner once told a producer that Bentley was too intense to share air with. The tension got so thick that entire scenes had to be blocked around their body language so the characters didn't physically overwhelm each other. One source close to the writer's room revealed that Costner lobbied to tone down Jamie's arc in several Season 4 scripts. He felt like Jamie was starting to outshine Dutton, and that wasn't something he was going to allow. Bentley, meanwhile, played it cool in public, but the resentment reportedly simmered. In a 2023 interview, he cryptically said, "Sometimes you learn more from silence than conversations on set." Fans thought it was poetic. Insiders knew it was about Costner. By Season 5, the rift had widened. Like with Grimes, their scenes were kept short and shot separately. Bentley and Costner rarely interacted, even in crucial storylines. Entire episodes were rewritten to keep their characters apart. The quiet war wasn't just personal, it was creative. Bentley wanted Jamie to descend further, into deeper conflict and darker choices. He reportedly fought for a redemption arc that would challenge the audience, but Costner had veto power and used it. Jamie's darker path was scaled back, softened, redirected. And it wasn't just a battle of acting styles, it was a fight for space on the screen. Costner didn't want to be overshadowed, especially by a character who, in many ways, was built to challenge Dutton's authority. It became a staring contest between generations, between method and legacy, between a man clawing his way back from addiction and loss, and a Hollywood legend determined to stay in control. By the end of the season, Bentley was shooting on a completely different schedule, and fans, once again, noticed. Their final showdown on screen, it was just two men reading lines. The real drama had already played out, in silence, edits, and closed-door rewrites. Cole Hauser, From Co-Star to Conflict. For years, fans saw Rip and John Dutton as the emotional backbone of Yellowstone, loyalty, brotherhood, a bond that defied bloodlines. On screen, they were unshakable, but off-screen, that bond wasn't built to last. Costner and Cole Hauser got along well at first. They shared a similar quiet intensity, both veterans of the Hollywood system, Costner the icon, Hauser the workhorse. But as the show grew in popularity, something changed. It started with the fans. As Yellowstone exploded, Rip Wheeler became a breakout star. Social media lit up with Rip memes, Rip quotes, Rip fan edits. Cole Hauser, who had spent decades in the industry without massive recognition, was finally having his moment. And Kevin Costner noticed. Behind the scenes, insiders say Costner became increasingly protective of his narrative space. One writer shared, "We'd pitch darker arcs for Rip, betrayal, moral tests, anything with complexity." Kevin would push back. He didn't want anyone questioning John Dutton's grip on loyalty. Tension built during Season 4, when a stunt-heavy fight scene between Rip and a rival ranch hand was being filmed. According to two separate crew members, Costner intervened during rehearsals, arguing the choreography made Rip look too dominant. The scene was reshot twice, with subtle changes that kept Dutton's authority visually intact. Hauser didn't say much. He rarely did, but the message was clear. Things got worse when whispers of a Rip-centered spin-off began floating through Paramount's executive halls. Hauser was being considered as the face of a potential Yellowstone offshoot, and Costner saw it as a threat. Kevin didn't want to share the throne, one producer admitted. He liked being the son everyone revolved around. Rip becoming a standalone star? That shifted the gravity. By Season 5, the divide was visible. Hauser and Costner no longer appeared together on press tours. Their scenes were streamlined, their interactions shortened. Some of the most intense father-figure dialogue between John and Rip cut or rewritten. Hauser reportedly requested Rip be given more internal conflict. Temptation, violence, loyalty dilemmas. But those ideas rarely made it past the first draft. It wasn't just creative. It was personal. Two men who once shared screen time with ease were now circling each other like rivals, both alpha, both stubborn, and both unwilling to lose ground. By the end of their run together, there were no joint interviews, no final photos, no public acknowledgement. And when Costner released his farewell video in 2024, he didn't mention Rip at all, and fans noticed. Kelly Riley, Beth Dutton, Drama Off-Screen 2. If any relationship on Yellowstone felt like pure fire, it was John and Beth Dutton. The ruthless patriarch and his ferociously loyal daughter. Their scenes sparked with emotional chaos, brutal honesty, and strange tenderness. But that on-screen electricity? It hid a slow-burning disconnect between Kevin Costner and Kelly Riley. In the early years, Riley often praised Costner's guidance. She credited him with helping her navigate the American TV machine. They weren't close off-screen, but there was mutual respect. Then came the rise of Beth Dutton. Riley's performance became a cultural phenomenon. Beth was fearless, sharp, broken, brutal, and fans couldn't get enough. Suddenly, Riley was landing magazine covers. Her monologues went viral. Beth tattoos, Beth whiskey quotes. She was everywhere. And reportedly, that changed the dynamic with Costner. Kevin was always the center, a former writer said. But suddenly, people were showing up for Beth, and it rattled him. Creative tension started in Season 4. Riley wanted more complexity for Beth, emotional vulnerability, trauma unpacking, nuance. But according to multiple sources, Costner pushed back, claiming too much focus on Beth risked diluting the core of the show. When Riley pushed for scenes exploring Beth's guilt over her mother's death or her silent grief over infertility, those ideas mysteriously vanished from final drafts. She reportedly told a friend, "I wasn't asking for the spotlight. I was asking for truth." By Season 5, the two stars barely spoke between takes. Their scenes together were shot tightly, with minimal interaction outside the script. While Beth's dialogue remained sharp, there was a coldness in their exchanges, one that even fans began picking up on. Then came the final fracture. When Costner released his carefully worded exit video in 2024, thanking the fans, the crew, the writers, he didn't mention Kelly Riley. No shout-out, no tribute, nothing. Riley didn't respond publicly. But her silence? It echoed louder than any words. Sources close to her say she was blindsided, not just by the omission, but by what it said about how the man behind John Dutton truly viewed her contributions. He never wanted Beth to outshine Dutton, one insider said. And when she did, he erased her from the goodbye. It was the final blow in a partnership that once shaped the soul of the series. And when it broke, so did the show's emotional heart. The studio's secret plan to kill off John Dutton. By late 2023, behind closed doors at Paramount, a secret was quietly circulating. A plan that would send shockwaves through Yellowstone fans and reshape the show's legacy forever. The network wanted to kill off John Dutton, and not with the honor or gravitas a character of that magnitude deserved. The leak was blunt, brutal, and deliberate. Dutton would die off-screen in a car crash. No last words, no heroic ending, just gone. It wasn't just a creative decision, it was a power play. Executives were furious with Kevin Costner. The delays, the contract disputes, the passive-aggressive press wars with Taylor Sheridan. Costner's growing obsession with his personal project, Horizon, had made him nearly impossible to schedule. And worst of all, his ironclad contract clause, the infamous Dutton death protection, meant they couldn't write him out without his explicit permission. So they tried to go around it. According to insiders, Season 5B was already storyboarded with a plan for Dutton's sudden death. Writers were told to craft a dramatic fallout, a funeral no one saw, a power vacuum on the ranch, a violent scramble for control. But Costner caught wind of the plan, and he was livid. He immediately invoked the clause, threatening legal action if the network moved forward with any storyline involving an off-screen death or character humiliation. It was a move only he could make, and he shut the storyline down cold. The damage was immediate. Storyboarded scenes were scrapped. Weeks of planning thrown out. A director reportedly walked off set. Writers quit in protest. One producer was overheard saying, "He's burning this ranch down himself." And Taylor Sheridan? He was done playing nice. Sheridan allegedly called the clause a creative straitjacket in a private production meeting, claiming it had killed the arc before the character. The fallout between the creator and the star hit its lowest point. Two men who built a phenomenon now couldn't even agree on how it should end. Crew members were caught in the crossfire. Budgets ballooned. Scripts were rewritten overnight. It was chaos, not on the screen, but behind it. And for fans waiting patiently for the long-promised second half of Season 5, the silence was deafening. What they didn't know was this. The fight over how John Dutton would die had turned into a battle over who controlled the soul of Yellowstone. And by the time it ended, there wouldn't be a hero left standing. The divorce that fueled the final blow. While Yellowstone unraveled in public, Kevin Costner's private life was collapsing in parallel. In May 2023, after 18 years of marriage, Christine Baumgartner filed for divorce, and what followed was a courtroom war that would bleed into everything. What began as a quiet filing quickly spiraled into tabloid frenzy. Christine demanded $250,000 a month in child support, claiming Costner's lifestyle was far beyond modest. citing multiple estates, private planes, and the sprawling ranch home seen in Yellowstone itself. But this wasn't just a celebrity split. It was financial carnage. Costner was now at war with his wife, his employer, and the clock. With Paramount refusing to budge on shoot dates and Sheridan losing patience, Costner made a desperate gamble. He doubled down on his passion project, Horizon, investing $38 million of his own money into the Civil War epic. To do it, he mortgaged his $50 million California compound, a personal risk that left his entire future tied to the success of a film most people hadn't even heard of yet. "It's too many fires at once," one longtime friend told Variety. "The divorce, the show, the lawsuits. He's drowning and still trying to play cowboy." Insiders say the strain was visible. On set, Costner was distracted. In meetings, he snapped easily. His team began cutting off communications between Paramount and Horizon's production. A wall went up, and few could get through. Every delay on Yellowstone meant lost money. Every script Sheridan turned in late, or Costner rejected, meant a domino effect, costing hundreds of thousands in production reshoots. Paramount was bleeding cash, and so was Costner. In the middle of it all, lawyers ruled everything: mediation, restraining orders, asset disclosures. And for a man who once kept his private life fiercely protected, it was a public unraveling he couldn't escape. The tension bled into his final decisions on Yellowstone. When presented with a trimmed-down arc to wrap up John Dutton in just a few final scenes, Costner reportedly walked away. It was no longer worth the stress. He left behind $15 million in unused salary and never looked back. For Costner, it was about principle. But to those around him, it looked like collapse. From America's cowboy king to a man fighting wars on all fronts. And as Yellowstone's empire cracked in half, so did the man who built it. The Instagram exit heard round the world. After months of silence, delays, and swirling rumors, Kevin Costner finally broke his silence on Yellowstone. Not with a press release, but a quiet 60-second Instagram video on June 21, 2024. Wearing a black shirt and sitting on a sunlit porch, he looked directly into the camera and said calmly, "I won't be returning to Yellowstone. I gave everything I could. I'm proud of what we built. But it's time to ride on." No mentions of Taylor Sheridan. No nods to Riley, Hauser, or Grimes. Not a single co-star named. And just like that, John Dutton was gone. The response was split. Some called it classy. Others called it cold. Behind the scenes, cast and crew reportedly learned about his exit at the same time as the fans. "People cried," one crew member told THR, "not because he left, but because of how." Adding fuel to the fire? The video dropped the same week Costner premiered Horizon, his personal film project. The message was clear. "Don't ask me about Yellowstone, ask me about this." For Paramount, it wasn't just a departure. It was a silent, final act of control. Legacy or fallout? The truth about Costner's exit. When Yellowstone began, Kevin Costner was the reason it existed. A two-time Oscar winner returning to long-form television. It was headline-making. His name brought in the budget. His face sold the show. But when he left, he didn't just walk away from a character. He fractured a franchise. The numbers showed it. After Costner's departure, viewership for Yellowstone dipped. Spin-offs still thrived, 1923, 1883, but the flagship show felt hollow. The central question that once powered every episode, "What will John Dutton do next?" was gone. And so was the man who made that question matter. Taylor Sheridan moved on quickly, launching new series and prequels. But insiders say the fallout with Costner still haunts the halls of the studio. There's talk of never working with him again, of burned bridges that won't be rebuilt. But here's the complicated truth. Kevin Costner wasn't entirely wrong. He didn't want to die off-screen. He didn't want his arc rushed or diluted. He wanted Horizon to matter. He wanted to leave on his terms, not as a casualty of corporate timelines. And in doing so, he became a villain to some and a cautionary tale to others. Writers whisper about what could have been. Co-stars move on without naming him. And fans are left divided. Was he protecting the character he created? Or protecting an ego that couldn't stand to be eclipsed? The final irony? The man who fought so hard to preserve John Dutton's legacy may have burned his own in the process. And yet, maybe that's the most Yellowstone ending of all. A man who built an empire, watched it fall apart, and rode into the sunset alone. He built the ranch, ruled the land, and carried the show. But off-screen, alliances crumbled. With names finally revealed and tensions no longer hidden, Kevin Costner's Yellowstone legacy is no longer just iconic. It's fractured. In trying to protect Dutton's world, he may have destroyed the one behind the camera.